really, today's notes should be labeled how to find A, because ultimately what we're going to do in all of these is figure out what A is. They're going to give us enough information that the only unknown will be A. So if you're given a point and a vertex, use vertex form. If you're given a point and your x-intercepts, use intercept form. So basically, if you're given a vertex, use vertex form. If you're given intercepts, use intercept form. In example 1a, the graph shows the parabolic path of a performer who is shot out of a cannon where y is the height in feet and x is the horizontal distance traveled in feet. Our first task is to write an equation of the parabola. So 50, 35, that would be our vertex. So I'm going to label that as our vertex. And the letters for the vertex are H and K. So 50 is our H, 35 is our K. Now there's not a ton of space to show our work in here, so we're going to have to kind of squeeze it in. But we are using vertex form. So I'm writing that in here so you all can see where we're sticking numbers in and kind of line it up. Since we know our vertex is 50, 35, we can go ahead and put x minus 50 squared plus 35. The problem is, we still have three unknowns. We have x, y, and a. We can't figure out a unless we have something to put in place of x and y. That's where this other point comes in. This point is an x and a y that has to work in this equation. So we are going to put 15 in place of the y and 0 in place of your x. Now this equation only has one unknown. Our unknown is a. So we can use our algebra skills to figure out what a is. So in the parentheses, 0 minus 50 is negative 50. What's negative 50 squared? Positive 2,500. If you just typed in negative 50 squared into your calculator, you need to put parentheses around the negative. So look at how it is in the equation, 0 minus 50 inside parentheses squared. Or just think about negative 50 times negative 50 must be positive 2,500. What would you do next to solve this equation? Subtract 35 on both sides. So negative 20 equals a times 2,500. And then we would divide both sides by 2,500. To get a equals someone needs to help me out here. Okay, that's what I thought. All right, does this problem say figure out what a is? No, the problem says write an equation of the parabola. This second step is the most complete version of the equation that we have. The problem is, at this step, we didn't know what a is. Now, we know what a is. So rewrite y equals negative 0.008 times x minus 50 squared plus 35. That is the equation for the parabola that you see on the left. I don't believe there's any follow-up questions on your assignment, but there is a follow-up question here. the performer lands in a net that is 90 feet from the cannon, what is the height of the net? So right here is where this performer lands, and that is 90 feet from the cannon. How high is it? We can look at the graph and estimate. Doesn't it look like about 21, 22, 23-ish feet? To find out exactly, you would plug in x equals 90 and figure out exactly how high that net is. So those of you who are fast with your calculator, if you plug it in, beep, bop, boop, you would end up with 22.2 feet. And then you look at your graph and say, oh, hey, that makes sense. It would be 22.2 feet. That looks right for the graph. A meteorologist creates a parabola to predict the temperature tomorrow, where x is the number of hours after midnight and y is the temperature in degrees Celsius. Write a function that models the temperature over time. When I look at this parabola, the thing that you should notice is that we can see where it crosses the x-axis. That means we're in intercept form. So y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. Okay, we'll see how many colors I have here. Your intercepts are 4 and 24. So we need to replace P and Q with 4 and 24. Okay, that right there would be a perfect equation if we knew what A was. Because we don't know what A is, we need to find an x and a y that we could plug in and then solve for A. So here's a point. 0 is the x value. 9.6 is the y value. So we're going to replace y with 9.6. We're going to replace x. In both places x appears in this equation with 0. So 9.6 equals A times 0 minus 4 times 0 minus 24. Okay, what should we do to figure out A? Perfect. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. 0 minus 24 is negative 24. So if you want to write that step, negative 4 times negative 24 is positive 96. It's A times 96, so to figure out A, we need to divide both sides by 96. .6 divided by 96 is 0.1. Okay, now the problem doesn't say figure out what A is. The problem says write a function or an equation that models the temperature over time. So go back to this step when we didn't know what A was, but we had everything else in there. Y equals 0.1 times x minus 4 times x minus 24. Now this particular problem then asks us to find the coldest temperature. That requires figuring out what the vertex is. Looks like the vertex is right about there. So halfway between 4 and 24 would be 14. Plug 14 in to figure out the exact coldest temperature. But just look at this graph. What does it look like the coldest temperature is? -10. On the previous one, the exact answer wasn't precise. This one, it might be like -9 point something, but I think it's -10.